I thought I might give my thoughts on why Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were, I don't want to say letdowns as remakes. I know a lot of people do, but I want to expand my thoughts on the remakes in and of themselves. Now, as far as games are concerned, they are good games. I do think that they should have been price capped at $40, given that it's not as much effort as the newer Pokemon games went into these, but that's neither here nor there. Now, I do think that we should have had the ability to choose our hair color. You know, if we want to go, say, redhead, ginger, brunette, black, blonde, and of course several other of the more or less non-stand natural hair colors like aqua, green. There goes my computer. It's alright. I'll just close it real quick. But anyways, yeah. I would have liked if we could choose our hair color, and I also kind of wish that we could kind of mix and match our characters' clothing and accessories to an extent. I'm kind of big on character customization, but that's its own thing. And the third complaint I have about the game is that the Pokédex is still fairly sparse, which it was in the original game as well. Of course, you could transfer games to it from other games, but well, in the originals, you could transfer things from like your Game Boy Advance games into it. But and the new games do have the underground, which does give you some expanded capabilities, but not by much. I think what they should have done, idealistically speaking, is they should have added an additional 3 Pokemon per major area, and each route between the cities in and of itself. So like, you make your way from the starter city to I think it's Sanjim Town. There would be 3 additional Pokemon you could encounter, and then 3 additional ones between that and, was it Jubilife City? I have a hard time remembering specific names and routes sometimes, so yeah, that's a bit of an issue. And I also think they should have added at least 3 new Pokemon per general type, if they could. I mean, if there's a lot of Pokemon at the Pacific type in the original games, then yeah, maybe just add 1 or 2. But probably should have added at least 4 new Fire type Pokemon, because that type's pretty sparse in the game as well. Even in the newer ones. Now, that all being said, there's a couple of other reasons why this remake could be considered a letdown. And for one, the original games they're decent games in and of themselves, but they're lackluster when it comes to a lot of the other Pokemon games at face value. I mean, even some of the more despised ones like Scarlet and X and Sword and Shield. Violet and Y as well on that. But compared to those, the Diamond and Pearl are pretty sparse in and of itself. I mean, you go to one area to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and it feels longer than it really is, because there's a lot of unnecessary slowdown between the routes as well. Which I will say that the remakes do a great job at eliminating that slowdown, but it exposes how small the original games were. And of course, the map does actually feel a bit smaller in the newer games as well, so that's another thing I will mention. It's not really, but it is. Another thing is that there's a lot of things that this generation added that the other generations didn't have. For example, the special physical move split is one of the major things, in addition to having the ability to connect to people through Wi-Fi. That's another pretty big thing. I mean, you could share a friend code with a classmate and go to your houses, your respective houses, I mean, hook up to the internet and battle each other. No longer did you have to meet in person and either get permission to have a stayover, which may or may not be difficult depending on your parents, and especially if the friend you're wanting to battle is a different gender. That usually doesn't happen. Even if it's just for the evening. That can be pretty difficult for good reasons, I might add. But, or if you just live too far apart. That could be another thing. And of course, it could be a friend that has moved far away as well. So, yeah. Or it could be someone you met online, which, that's... It can be both safe and incredibly iffy at the same time. And of course, you also had the Cynthia simpage, which, yeah, Cynthia's alright. She's not really... I don't know how to put it, but, yeah, people are really on fire for Cynthia. And of course, back then, Pokemon was kind of different than it is today. So, in conclusion, a good part of why the remakes kind of... Well, hold on, I'm messing up a bit. I was going to say that you can't really capture what made the original Diamond and Pearl games great at the time. I mean, what are you going to do? Add a third type of attack? I mean, you got physical and special. What are you going to add? But, yeah, you can't recapture that. The Pokemon games have been online for ages now. In fact, they've got a lot better with the 3DS and especially. So you can't recapture that. And Cynthia is no longer just a Diamond and Pearl game thing. I mean, she's had appearances, I think, in the anime. She's had it in Masters EX. She's had it in other games. So, yeah. It's just a remake. You can't recapture what made those games great with the remake because they're all pretty much standardized in the games. So if you just make the game a remake, then it's going to be disappointing. And of course, there's also the expectation value as well. I mean, Pokemon fans for ages have pretty much acted like Diamond and Pearl, and especially Platinum, are the best. They are the thing when it comes to Pokemon. And like I said, while there was certainly some disappointments with the original, it was a good game. So naturally, when people have been begging and rumoring for Diamond and Pearl remakes, when they're finally announced, and it's just going to be a general remake and a unique style, people aren't going to be able to appreciate that. Because what they wanted was pretty much the Gran Turismo of Pokemon games. And by Gran Turismo, I mean back when it was good. That's what they wanted. They wanted the Skyrim of Pokemon, I guess. And you kind of, in a little bit of a way, got that. But nonetheless, that's what they wanted. And they didn't get it. So even if the games were perfect, there's a good chance that they would have sucked because the fan base had a pretty high expectation to it. Now, sure, they were bugs when it came out, which is an issue, but that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, so in conclusion, the expectation was high, and because of that, the fans couldn't appreciate what it was. The games themselves, while having some revolutionary features at the time, were kind of mid. And they didn't add as much as they needed to the remasters. That's where it fell short, on top of having a couple of glitches. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Thanks for watching.